All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Lamed Beis in Mesechus Eruvin. So we left off, we had a machlekes. We touched upon something a bit earlier. And of course, right, as I pointed out, the Gemara becomes very ADD, right? You mention one thing and then it discusses that issue. So how do we get out of the subject? Oh, we got on the subject by you give to somebody to give the eruv to somebody else. Even if the person is incapable of placing down the eruv, even as such as a human or an animal or whatever. When I say a katan or somebody that's incapable of doing mitzvahs, and you tell someone else to take it from them, we assume they do the shlichus. So we had a machlokes of whether we assume people do the shlichus or not. And there's a machlokes as to whether when there's if they do the shlichus, if it's a daraisa. There's a machlokes between Rav Sheshes, and the other opinion was Rav Nachman. Right? Rav Nachman says b'shel Torah ein chazaka shlichuso, and Rav Sheshes says b'dvar Torah chazaka shlichuso. Now Rav Sheshes, we're going to go ahead and bring a couple proofs. Amar Rav Sheshes. Says Rav Sheshes, we are 3 lines on the top of Lamed Beis and Aleph. From where do I know that we see that there's a chazaka that people do their shlichus, right? They do what they're set out to do, they're told to do. The Tanah we learn in the Mishnah, Mishkara Eimer Hutar HaChadash Miyad. So once the Omer is brought on, the Omer is supposed to be brought on the first day of Chol Moed Pesach, which is the second day of Pesach. Right, and so that's when they offer the new grains, and then everyone's permitted to have from the chadash, from the new harvest. Right, so the people who are close, they can do it immediately once they see it. But the people who are far away, they're not going to hear whether it's done. They can assume from chatzos hayom at midday that it was already brought sometime in the morning, and therefore they can go ahead and do it. I have a chadash deraisa. We see chadash is a halacha deraisa. And the people who are far away are mutter once it's chatzos beilach. Is it not because the those who offer the karban omer, right? They are basically a shaliach on behalf of the tzibur, and we see that the shlichus, they can assume that they did their shlichus. You see, it's the right, they do it. So Rav Nachman said, no, not a proof. Hasam Kektani time over there. The reason says lefi sheyadim shein bezdin mitzaslan bo, because they know that bezdin is not lazy. Right? In other words, since there's a beis din, it's not just a person who's appointed to do something which is deraisa, right? There's a beis din that's going ahead and supervising and making sure that the omer is brought. Therefore, the people can assume that the shlichus is done. Some say this actually was a proof for Rav Nachman. It says based in who, right? It says what's the reason why we know it's going to be done before chatzos? It's because we know that there's a beis din. They're not lazy. Right, they're gonna make sure it's done. So based in hudul masaslan, bo, it's only the based in it's not lazy. Ha shaliach masaslan, but if it was just a shaliach, then he would have been lazy and he would have done it. So you see that people normally don't do their shlichus. Based in ad palge diyayma shaliach. Is based in ad palge diyayma shaliach kuliyayma. Now based in up to half the day. Now since it's based in, then you can assume that they did it in the morning. If there was no based in, then you can't assume the morning. Then it'll be the entire day. But no, it's not a proof. Says Rav Sheshes. Fine. Now Amar Rav Sheshes. Now comes another proof for the Raisa. Amar Rav Sheshes ben Amin Allah. How do you know the time we learn in Raisa? Ha'isha sheyesh aleh leida or ziva. A woman that has to go ahead and she has to bring it at the end of her tuma period from, let's say, giving birth, or she was a zava, and she has to go ahead and bring a korban, some mevia, mos, v'notenes, v'shufar, v'tavela. So what does she do? She goes ahead and brings money to the base of mikdash, and she puts it in the shofar, in the box, right, where you're supposed to put the money. And then over there, the kohanim take the money, they purchase the animals, and they offer the animals on the behalf of the women. The tavelas, v'achelas, v'kachel, and then she can go ahead and go to the mikvah, and once it's night, then she can go ahead and eat kachim. She's considered to be tahor. Right? So my time, what's the reason? Right? The only way she becomes tahira is if the kohanim go ahead and offer her korban. So what's the assumption here? The assumption is that the kohanim are doing it to the point that she can go ahead and eat kachim. Because there's a chazaka on a daraisa level, right? Even halachas daraisa, that the chazaka the shlich will do the shlichus. Rav Nachman says no, it's not a good proof. Why? Damarav Shemaya Chazaka a Bezdin Shakohanim Aimdim Misham Ad Shiacholu Kol Maoz Shabashafar. The Kohanim do not leave there until all the money is gone. Therefore, since there's a Bezdin over there who's making sure that the Kabbalas are brought, therefore that's the reason. It doesn't have to do with the general shlichus, whether a shliach will do it, but rather it has to do with the fact that there's a Beis Din, all right? So Amar Rav Sheshes, we're like in the middle of Lamed Beis, about Aleph, just I see in case Meir asks, right? We're right in the middle, smack in the middle, Amar Rav Sheshes. So we say, Amar Rav Sheshes, Min Amin Allah. From where do we know this? Another proof. The Tani, we learn in Brisa. Go ahead and take some figs from my fig tree. Eichel mehen arai. He can go ahead and eat them. Arai, in other words, basically eat them. Arai, in other words, he's not. He can eat them like out in the tree. He doesn't have to go ahead and take a ma'aser from them. He can eat them without bringing them to his house. He can eat them out on the fields. Right? But if if he's because that's in the field you don't have to take chumas ma'aser. But if he's going to go ahead and bring them in, then he indeed has to go ahead and take ma'aser for it. Now. If he tells him, so first one says, you can eat my figs. So you can use figs. He can go ahead and eat the figs off the tree. So then he's allowed, he doesn't have to take Chor Meiser, but if he brings in his house, then he has to go ahead and take Chor Meiser because the owner has no idea how much he's taking, and therefore the owner can't take Meiser on his behalf. However, if he tells him, go ahead and fill this basket. So he said, tell him to fill this basket. He's basically telling the amount to go ahead and take. He's allowed to go ahead and eat them casually out in the fields. He doesn't take Chumas Meiser. However, but if he brings them in, Masrim Demai, right? And we say over there, then over there, if he wants to go ahead and take Meiser, then he has to go ahead and take Meiser Demai. In other words, we don't know what Meiser Demai, and the more qualifies it, but Amaretz, we're talking about where the guy who told him to go ahead and take it who says, Oga, either the owner of the field says, take the basket, where he's Amaretz, and therefore, we don't know if he went ahead, we doubt he took it, so therefore go ahead and take it because we doubt he took it, right? No, that's the buy. But if the guy was a Talmid Chacham, and the Talmid Chacham told him, go ahead and take a basket full of figs, then Eichel ve'ein tzarich laser. You can go ahead and eat it without taking meiser. Why? Because we assume that the Chaver went ahead and took meiser on behalf of that basket. He calculated that when he took Trumas and Meisers, and he took that into calculation because he told him exactly how much. So you see that the Chaver, right, is doing his shlichus. He's taking the meiser. He can eat it without taking meiser. Diva Rebbe, that's the opinion of Rebbe, and Rav Shimon Gamliel Leimer b'med devamurim b'amaretz. We're only talking about Amaretz of Abachaver, Ein Eichel Achis over there, but only if it's an Amaretz. But with a Chaver, then you have to go ahead and take Meiser. We know for sure he did not take Meiser. Why is that? Because there's a halacha. The halacha normally is that you can't go ahead and take Truma from food that's basically not in front of you, right? That's food that's not right in front of you, and therefore chaverim they only take that food that's in front of you. They don't take food from here for over there. They only take that food that's in front of them. So if I see all this, this is 10 saw of food here, I'll take 1 saw of the crop. But if he tells them in the basket, since the basket is not by the Talmid Chacham who owns the field, so therefore he's not going to go ahead and violate this derabanan of taking meiser on a basket. That's not in front of him. And Amar Rebbe says Rebbe to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Nirin devarai midvei Rabba. Right? It appears my words are right more than than the words of my father. Why? Mutav sheyechshu chaverim lichum shalom and amukaf v'lo yechlo amar tvelim. So it says better, right? The chaverim will violate, right, this concern of taking truma or in meiser of food that's not in front of them, versus having people go ahead, people go ahead and eating food that they didn't take meiser from. So that was the machlokes between Rebbe and Shmuel. So ad kan lo pligi elo de mar saver nachshu mar saver lo nachshu. Only over here the machlokes is whether or not we're concerned that they, whether they go ahead and take meiser from food that's not in front of them. About kuliyam, but everyone holds chazaka shlichuso. But everyone agrees that the shliach will do a shlichus. In other words, that he'll go ahead and take the meiser. In other words, if he doesn't mind taking meiser from food that's not in front of him, Avadi is going to go ahead and do it before the person has the opportunity to go ahead and eat off from his tree, and therefore we would say that he's doing a shlichus. Rav Nachman, and so in other words, we see that shlichus is done on the Raisa level. So what would Rav Nachman say to this? Rav Nachman Hasim Rav Chanina Chuzai, Damar Rav Chanina Chuzai, Chazaka hu al chaver sheina maitzi davar sheina mesukan mitachas yado. Right, it's a chazaka that since he's a chaver, right, something that's not fixed won't come from him. In other words, obviously it's a different chazaka. It's not a chazaka of a shaliach. Hey, you go ahead and do it, and I'm going to go ahead and take Trum Meiser on behalf of those figs. No, since he's a chaver, it's a different chazaka. A chazaka that the chaver will take care of things. That's different than the chazaka of a shliach oiseh shlichusa. Fine. Omar Mar, we mentioned before. Let's get into the machlokas. We're talking about amaretz. But if the owner was a chaver, then you don't have to worry about it, that he took Trumas Maisos on behalf of this basket. So now the Gemara says, Hi Amaretz, the Kamer Le Laman. Now, who are we talking to, right? Who's giving food to who? Now, we said we're talking about Amaretz, right? So, Hi Amaretz, the Kamer Le Laman. Ilema the Kamer Lamaretz Chavre. Now, as you're saying, if the owner of the field is an Amaretz, right? So now, who is he giving the figs to? Who's he giving the rights to go ahead and eat the figs off his tree? If he's telling another Amaretz, right? Is he going to go ahead and take the Demai? If they're both Amaretz, right? So the reason why the second guy we're telling to take is because the first guy didn't do it. But the whole point is Amaretz is not trusted to go ahead and take Meiser. So he's not going to do it because he'll going to say the other guy should have done it, right? In other words, we're only machmer on Chaverim because of Amaretz, but we're not machmer on Amaretz because of Amaretz, because these people, they don't know. They're not going to take the Meiser anyways. So, Ella Amaretz to come to the we might be talking about a case of what we're talking about.
So what we're doing? What we're doing, we're legitimizing the Amaretz in a way. In a way, we're legitimizing the Amaretz that they're okay. In a way, right? You give them credit.
Yeah.
No,
well,
I shouldn't say you give
right?
them
We're
credit, but you,
right.
you're not. You say Amaretz. It's not really Avera. It's something of that. You're not over. You follow me? It's like not that they legitimize you. Like you have more color. That's it. You're more mekel because okay.
All right, no, it's a good point, because over here, it should be on him, but even that, but his whole argument will be, you want me to take Meiser because you don't trust him? I trust him, so don't tell me that's on him, that's not on me. So like, we can't really force the second guy, because really the first guy should have done it. So he's going to kind of, don't penalize me, but I hear what you're saying.
We're talking about Demai specifically, right?
Now remember, in this case, Demai is something that we didn't trust that the guy did what he was supposed to, and now we're telling the buyer to go ahead, or the recipient of the gift, to go ahead and take Meiser because the first guy didn't do what he was supposed to.
But also, we said a while ago that we kind of believe him, even though he's an Amaretz, most likely he did take Demai.
Now, he could, we don't know. He took Truma. Truma he took, just Demai, with the Meiser, we don't know, right? Demai is really Meiser Risha, right? Now, so back in the case, so Ella ba'amaretz to come to the chaver. Rather, we're talking about an amaretz who owns the field, who tells basically a chaver, a talmid chacham, go ahead and eat from the figs of my tree. Now, okay, so that's the case. We're talking about a chaver. So the person eating is a chaver. So okay, let's look at the seifa. The seifa says nivrin divarai mi divrei abba. Right? It says Rabbi, my words appear more logical than the words of my father. Why? Mutav sheyechzu chaver l'nichom shlemin amukaf al yachlu lamiaretz tvelim. Now, better, right? That the what's it called? Chaverim are choyshet, right? That that they go ahead and take truma from places that are not in front of them, and they shouldn't go ahead and feed an Amaretz tevel. Wait, I thought we were talking about feeding a chaver. So why are you bringing in feeding an Amaretz? We're talking about feeding a chaver, not an Amaretz. Right? Amaretz, my boy, awesome. Why are you talking about Amaretz? I thought we just established the case where the person eating is the chaver. We're telling him whether or not he should go ahead and be taking Tamai. So Amar Ravina says no. Reisha Amaretz, you're right. The chaver. The Reisha is just as we said, right? The Amaretz is telling the chaver, right? And then the chaver says, okay, go ahead and take Tamai because maybe he didn't do it, right? And the Seifa, the chaver, Sha'amar Lamaretz, we're talking about a chaver that's saying to an Amaretz, right? The lamaretz. In other words, they say lamaretz. The chaver acher shemo, and then another chaver also hears and knows. He hears that, hey, go ahead and eat the. You can have figs from this basket. Now another chaver heard, and he was also going to partake from that basket. In other words, the other, the amaretz. Right? He said, oh, yeah, the rabbi who owns the field, the Chabad rabbi, he said, I can go ahead and take some. Why don't you also, Mr. Talmud Chacham, take some too? So that guy, that's what we're talking about. In other words, it wasn't told to him directly, rather it was told to someone else. But therefore, the Chabad rabbi, right, who only thought about, the person who we told to, which was the Amaretz, right? The Chaver Acher Shemea, and Rebbe held, so Oiso, Chaver Oichel, Ve'enet Tzarich Laser. Right, so he says no. That chaver who heard, he can go ahead and eat. He doesn't take meiser. Devada isura meiser. Right, hahu chaver kam eloi. Because the first guy took it because the Chabad rabbi, he was the one who went ahead and took meiser because he told some amaretz to go ahead and eat from his field, and obviously he didn't want him to eat tevel. So obviously the Chabad rabbi who took the proper meiser. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, no, lo yoichel ad shiaser. No, he shouldn't go ahead and eat until he takes meiser. Lefishal nechshu chaveim licham shalom min hamukav. Right, because he wouldn't have acted inappropriately and taken meiser from something that's not in front of him. V'amer le Rabbi, and that Rabbi says mutav sheichshu chaveim licham shalom min hamukav yayochel ameres tevel. It's better for the rabbi, right, to be chayshed, to be chuma for something that's not in front of him, and not to go ahead and feed amaretz tevel. Now, but my kamiflagi, what's the machlokes there? Rebbe saver nichale lechaver deliaver hayisura. So Rebbe held, right, it's better for a chaver to go ahead and to do an isser kalila. V'lo yilaver amaretz yisura rabba. Better for him to do a small isser of basically taking trumas hamaisos not in front of all the food because the basket is not in front of him. And versus somebody else doing a graver avera, such as eating tevel. It's better for a chaver to live it. Amaretz yisura rabba. Let him do a big isser. V'yu afilu yisura kalila love it. Better for him not to do any small isser. So in other words, that was the logic of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel versus that of Rebbe. Fine. Now Mishnah. Mishnah says, Nosnu be'ilon. Lamala me'asara tfachim. A person wants to go ahead, and we'll soon see established in the case. He wants to go ahead and set up his shvisa, his Shabbos, where he wants to go ahead and set right by a tree. Okay, and where does he put the eruv? So nasna le'ilan lamala me'asara tfachim. If he goes ahead and he puts it in the tree higher than 10 tfachim, ain eruv eruv. His eruv is not a good eruv. We'll have to see why. We'll see why. Right, l'chayra, it's not in the same place as he is. Right. And lamata me'asara. However, if it's lower than 10, right? If it's in the tree lower than 10 tefachim, eruv, that is a good eruv. And nasna babor, and if he puts in a pit, afilu amok mea am, if he goes down all the way down, eruv eruv. Then his eruv is a good eruv. So now that was the Mishnah. Let's see the Gemara. So Yastiv Rab Chia bar Abba, Rab Asi, Rab bar Nasan. So the three of them are sitting. Rab Chia bar Abba, Rab Asi, Rav bar Nasan, V'Yasiv Rav Nachman Gavayu, and Rav Nachman was sitting in front of them. The Yasvi v'Kamri, and they were sitting and they taught. Hi Ilan Dekai Heicha. Where is this tree? Right? We're talking about this tree. They put it in the tree. Where is this tree? If it's sitting in Rishus Hayachid, so Mali Lamala Mali Mata. What does it make a difference? Where the Erev is and how high the food they put in the tree, above 10, below 10. It's all in the same Rishus, right? Rishus Hayachid Ad Rakia, right? It's the same Rishus Hayachid on the ground. It is on top. It's the same Rishus because the Rishus Hayachid goes all the way up into the sky. Ella, rather, the Kai Rishus Harabim. Rather, we're talking about a tree that was out in Rishus Harabim. The Miskavin Lishbais Heicha. Now, where is he intending to have his shvisa, his makom, right? So, so if he's going to go ahead and basically make his shvisa in the tree, right, in this Rishus Hayachid, and his Erev is in Rishus Hayachid, so him and his Erev in the same place. So what's the problem? So Ella, rather, niskaven lishvais lamala. lamata. Rather, here's the issue. We're talking about he wants to be on the bottom, okay? And his Eruv, he puts in the tree on top, right? In the Rishus HaYachid, on top in this tree. Now, there's an issue is you have to be able to go ahead and take, right, and bring your Eruv to where you are, right? The issue is going to be, he's going to be going ahead and taking the Eruv from the Rishus HaYachid on top to the Rishus HaRabim, where he's at in the bottom, right? So the guy says, okay. So what do you mean? He's being mishtamish b'ilon, right? How could you go ahead and say that in the previous case, right? In other words, this case that was mutter was below 10, it's mutter. Don't we have a rule that you're not allowed to be mishtamish b'ilon? You can't go ahead and basically use a tree on Shabbos, right? You can't, do different things and use the tree. You can't climb the tree, so you can't use the tree to hold his eruv. So why is it mutter then? So the Elam, the Kaibish is a rabbin. Really, it's in Rishus that we said. And he also wants to go ahead on the bottom. So what's the issue? The Rebbe, the Amar called Davar Shehu Mishum Shavus, Lo Gazra Lo Ben Hashmashos. Now, anything that is only a derabanan is not usher Ben Hashmashos. Right? Ben Hashmashos, we're not geyser at that point. Now, obviously, the issue of being mishtamesh in a tree is only a derabanan. Now, since the Eruv is set up during Ben Hashmashos, I can move the Eruv then, right? So since you're setting up the Eruv during Ben Hashmashos, so therefore the Eruv is not prohibited to move. So at the time when the Eruv is being placed there, even though it's in a tree, there is no Gezerah Derabanan during that Ben Hashmashos, and therefore it's mutter to go ahead and access it during Ben Hashmashos. Since it's mutter to go ahead and access it during Ben Hashmashos, it's mutter the entire Shabbos. And Amar Lahu Rav Nachman. So now remember, this is over there sitting, as I mentioned earlier, was Rav Chia, Barabba, Rav Asi, and Rav Barnasan. So Amar Lahu Rav Nachman Yasher says Ishkoyach, and you're teaching it to V'chein Amar Shmuel. Shmuel also had the same limud. So Amar Lei. So they said to Rav Nachman and Pasirasa Ba Kuli Hai. Right? Did you learn it like this? So Gemara, wait. The more questions. Wait. Inu Nami Hecha Kapatri. Right? So why are they saying like, oh, did you learn this much, as if they didn't do it? They also did it, right? They also, came to the same conclusion, right? So Ella Hachi Amrle, that's what they said to him. Kavisle, big Gemara says, did you establish the Gemara in this case to learn that mission like that? Samalahu, he said, yes, indeed. And Itamar Nami similarly learned Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel, Hacha be'ilan ha'omer, which is a rabbin. We're talking about an ilan, a tree that's standing, which is a rabbin. Gavoa Sarachav Arba, and the tree is at least 10 tvachim tall and 4 wide. It's its own Rishus HaYachid. V'neskav and lishmas lamata. However, his shvisa, he wants to be on the bottom, on the Rishus Rabbin, not on top. The Rebbe, and it's the opinion of Rebbe, the Amar Kol Davar Shum Mishum Shavus, Lo Yigaz Alav Ben Hashmashos. Anything is because of a Shavus, we're not going Ben Hashmashos. And Amar Rava, and says in Rava, he gives a qualification. Lo Shanu Ela Be'ilan Ha'omer Chutz Le'ibura Shel Ir. We're talking about a tree, right, which is outside the city. But if you have a tree inside the city, even if it's above 10, it's mutter. Why? Demasa command demal, right? Is a chiddush here, because basically the walls of the city are like it's filled in. Now, we don't mean that the walls of the city are filled in; it's all like one Rishus HaYachid, but rather means since we basically the way to establish, let's say, different eruvin, right, and a mavui and all that within the wall. So the wall technically sometimes, right, has power to go ahead and basically we look as if like it's full. So when it comes to eruvin, it looks like basically the walls are complete. So therefore, we don't look at the tree as it starts from the ground, right? It's all, everything, it's like it's all filled in. So therefore, and technically, when it comes to the Eruv, according to Rava, where the Eruv is, and even though, despite the Eruv might be in the tree higher up, over 10 Tvachim, that's still all filled in because it's all within the walls of the city. It's still considered the same Rishus when it comes to the Eruv. If that's the case, why don't you say if it's outside? Nami kevan. All right. So okay. So if it's outside, right? So kevan Rava. So Rava says hanaisin yeshlo arba amos. If one goes ahead and puts his eruv, first he has dalad amos, and then outside this dalad amos around where he puts it, then he has 2,000 amos there. Sahabi le Rishus HaYachid. So therefore, that area is Rishus HaYachid. In other words, if you're saying he has dalad amos, wherever he puts his eruv, that's like a little Rishus HaYachid. So you should have Rishus HaYachid. Rishus HaYachid, and it goes all the way up. So if, in other words, like that, if you say that he's wherever he is, right, he has the his 4 tefachim, excuse me, he has his 4 amos, right, in each direction, and then the tchum only starts from the edge of the 4 amos, 2,000 each direction. Okay, well, if the Erev is here, and even if the Erev is much higher up in a tree outside the city, well, why should it be usher? Since I have my own Dalet Amos, Rishus HaYachid, on the tree on top of me, which was Rishus HaYachid, it's one Rishus HaYachid. It shouldn't be usher. So why did you say it's usher, right, to have the Erev above my head, or if it's 10 tefachim over? So on that, we're talking about, yes, it is in a tree higher than 10, but actually the tree, the branches extend beyond Dalet Amos. It goes beyond Dalet Amos. So therefore, that where his Makom Shvis is not the same Dalet Amos as where his Erev is. So how could you go ahead and do it? In his Kavin, and he wants to go ahead and basically be by the trunk of the tree. So since that's beyond 4 amos, it's not the same Rishus HaYachid, therefore it'd be also to go ahead and do it. So how, if that's the question, then how can he access his Erev, right? Because the whole point is he's supposed to access his Erev. If he's in one Rishus, right, and then it's Dalet Amos way has to get to him, so you can get to him, but basically if you bring it halfway, then you stop, and then you bring it halfway, then you stop, that would be mutter. And once again, as long as it was only between, under 10. If it was over 10, then it would be usher. And we will stop over here, and we'll continue this discussion, Mr. Shem, tomorrow. Everyone have a wonderful day.
Shkar.